Welcome to episode 6 of Iconic Seasons 1987, the year that saw one of the most iconic matchups in NCAA basketball history. On today's episode, we're going to be telling the story of the UNLV Run-and-Rebels. We also have an interview with Freddie Banks, one of the players from that Final Four team. If you're a fan of UNLV or basketball, you don't want to miss this episode. Tune in, and if you like it, leave us a rating and or review. This is episode 6 of Iconic Seasons 1987.
Las Vegas, for some reason, and I don't know why, seems to forget about the 1987 team. As our guest will tell you, the players on the 1987 team are still close and frequently exchange phone calls or text messages despite living in different cities. One of his teammates commented at a reunion, "We're a bunch of knuckleheads who just loved each other. I tell everyone we were the 12 Stooges." It was that kind of camaraderie that made them successful. They averaged 92.6 points per game in the tournament, which was the most of any team. They shot 50.4% from the field and 40% from three-point range in the tournament. They had 5 players who averaged double-digit points in the tournament. Freddie Banks at 38 points per game, Gerald Patio at 16.3, Jarvis Bassnight 12.3, Eldridge Hudson 12, and Armand Gilliam at 10. But let's start the storytelling here. Jerry Tarkanian, Tark the Shark. 2 things: how good and how entertaining his UNLV basketball teams were. The running Rebels of Tarkanian played it the way it should have been played, with an aggressive, up-tempo offense and with defense that was highly underrated. Simply scoring a lot of points isn't how it's done. It's doing that combined with going at it hard on the defensive end. It's what can happen when a team is coached extremely well, but isn't overcoached. It's what can happen when a coach trusts in players who can play.
He gets up in the morning and he thinks basketball. And then he has lunch and he thinks basketball.
You got to give 100%, not 90.
He has dinner and he talks basketball.
He'd be taking the salt and pepper shakers and the little sugar packets, doing plays.
And after dinner, he goes home and he watches basketball. And then he gets up the next morning and he coaches basketball.
He's the most one-dimensional man in the world.
Let's talk about some UNLV recruiting. This often gets highlighted, but it's true because Tark took a different pathway. He was willing to take risks in a place that hadn't had a successful basketball team. He had a vision for why players had a right to be at the college level. And he had a vision for how to help players who came from underserved or underprivileged areas of the country or from situations that were overlooked or swept under the rug. Tark may have more recruiting stories than anyone ever.
Old Blue Eyes proved to be a better singer than a recruiter. But his willingness to be Tarkanian's messenger spoke loudly about how high this unlikely star had risen. Even in a town full of world-renowned entertainers, one stood out. An affable coach with a trademark towel known as Tark the Shark.
I think they're a great team, and I'm very delighted for them, except Tarkanian is eating up all the linen. The man sits on the bench and eats towels.
He always looks so sad. He's chewing on his towel. He looks like a bulldog or something.
There was a time when he sent Frank Sinatra in on a home visit in New Jersey because the recruit had an Italian mother. It didn't work. There was another time that he picked up a recruit after school in Brooklyn for weeks on end to drive him to his girlfriend's house and then wait outside in his car as they got reacquainted. That one worked. There was a time he planned on stashing a recruit at a cabin in Lake Arrowhead, California until signing day, only to find out that someone else had stashed him on Waikiki Beach. There was a time when he learned that it always pays to get the high school girlfriend to come along too, at least for the first semester. There was another time when he sprinted out of a home visit with a mother because he thought the NCAA had bugged the joint. To appreciate Jerry Tarkanian in his full glory, you need to know about the time he signed Allen to a letter of intent. UNLV had a new president, Robert Maxson, who was trying to improve the academic profile. UNLV was a growing commuter school and was trying to shake off the mobster-era reputation of Old Vegas.
People seem to have trouble imagining a real university in the shadow of the Strip.
So what made you want to take Kingsley's course? You know it's the toughest one on this campus.
The toughest course at UNLV.
Yeah.
And that's saying something.
Tell me about it. Every course at UNLV is a killer.
This class is the principles of Blackjack 1.
Tark realized that if Allen was on an academic scholarship, it freed up one more basketball scholarship to bring in another guy. Plus, they could publicize it, and it would help Allen's reputation. Win-win. An assistant was dispatched to the youth correctional facility, and an official paper was drafted. A couple of bucks may or may not have been used to grease the skids with a dumbfounded prison worker. However it was done, Allen was declared the valedictorian of the prison GED program. Even if no one knew if a prison GED program could even have a valedictorian, because it's a prison GED program. So what happened? A week before the meeting, Allen boosted a car and got sent back in, Tarkanian said. He lost his prize big man. Yes, Tark cracked, but I could always say that I recruited the valedictorian. You can see where Tark was ahead of his time, and also why Saturday Night Live jumped in to parody UNLV. College basketball is a lot more fun when it embraces the characters. There weren't any more colorful than Jerry Tarkanian, who absolutely never fit in with the conservative culture of the sport at the time, the media that covered it, or the NCAA that ruled it. Let's talk about the team. The effort, said Tarkanian, is incredible. While the big effort didn't bring the Running Rebels their first NCAA title, the torrid pace with an accelerated offense and pressuring defense was able to hide its defects and get it oh so close to that goal.
With his style of up-tempo, it was more of an organized chaos. People thought that we wasn't organized, but we worked our tails off to make sure we play together and within sync with each other.
You create the way you're going to play. And because of that, I never had more than one or two defenses. I usually only had one defense and maybe a second one for a little bit, but we did the same things over and over and over in practice to create the habit. And everything had to be intense. Everything was full speed, intense. And I wanted guys intense. I know a lot of coaches want their guys loose. I never wanted my guys loose. I wanted their hands sweating. I wanted their knees shaking. I wanted their eyes bulging. I wanted them to feel like we're getting ready to go to war. I never wanted my guys relaxed. I had a transfer one year from USC, and he said, Coach, he says, can we have some music in before the game? I had no talking in the locker room. I had total silence. He said, that no talking makes me nervous. I said, Earl, I says, it's no different in the summertime. If some guy comes to your hometown and says, hey, I'm going to come over to your house at 2 o'clock and I'm going to kick your butt. I said, what are you going to do? You going to turn music on or are you going to get intense?
UNLV was not overpowering, which in a tournament adds pressure to the artistic rather than the physical team. Their offense relied a lot on three-pointers. There is, as well, their unsettling habit of falling far behind early in the game, requiring a cavalry charge at the finish. In the coach's scheme of things, hard work is the measuring rod. When teams of his win, but do not give their best effort, he takes it personally. So much so that he's canceled postseason banquets for teams that did not work hard enough to suit him. I don't give him a banquet, and I told him why, said Tarkanian. The one thing I want is that they work hard and play hard. At UNLV, player status rises and falls on sustained effort. Take Jarvis Bassnight, a junior who came to Las Vegas from Mount San Antonio College, a junior college, apparently without the code of conduct Tarkanian expects. When Bassnight would complain of cold or sore ribs and let it affect his effort, Tarkanian marked him as a guy who did not want to play badly enough. I couldn't question, was he really hurt or sick, said Tarkanian. That'd be like questioning his manhood. The only thing I could do was to not play him, because guys are hurt all the time and go ahead and play hard. When Tarkanian saw Bassnight, in his words, busting his tail, Bassnight became the starter. Called JB or the Beaster by his teammates, Bassnight has learned to fit in his role that serves his team. With his long arms and quickness, Bassnight was effective in his helter-skelter, full-court man-to-man pressure defense the Running Rebels used extensively in this season. Mark Wade, a 5'11 left-hander, started his college career at the University of Oklahoma, where he was, as he said, at the wrong place at the wrong time. They had, Wade said, a senior point guard and the coach's son, Tommy Tubbs, playing ahead of me. This was not what Wade had anticipated. I was expecting to play right away, he said. When he got to Las Vegas, it took him a while for Coach Tarkanian to feel comfortable with him running the team. Wade said, it goes back to the height factor. As long as I've been playing, I've heard from a lot of coaches. They want big point guards. But his playmaking knack became Wade's calling card. He became known as the disher. He concentrated so much on passing that teams began dropping Wade's defender into the foul lane, double-teaming Armand Gilliam, the team's top scorer. Wade and several other teammates commented that the tour they took to Tahiti, Australia, and New Zealand really helped the team. On that tour before the season, Tarkanian allowed players to operate with more freedom. What resulted was that Wade and other players showed Tarkanian that they could operate one-on-one without the system going up in smoke. As a result, Tarkanian gave his players a more creative license, which the players said benefited their offense. It certainly helped Wade, who Tarkanian gave the green light to shoot whenever he wanted. Everyone giggled about that, Wade commented, because they know I don't like to shoot. However, against New Mexico State on February 21st, when UNLV trailed by 17 at half, Wade nailed 3 3-pointers to start the rally that resulted in an 80-69 victory. That show of offensive force was out of character. He's usually content to deliver the ball to Gilliam and to three-point bombers Freddie Banks and Gerald Patio. Early on, Banks won the nickname Fearless Freddie for his habit of sinking long-range shots with the outcome of the games on the line.
Freddie was a great competitor. He was a guy that was full of confidence.
I would get a hand right in his face every single time, and you can look in his eyes, and he never lost concentration of basketball.
I call him Fearless Fred. Never afraid to take the shot.
Freddie Banks for three. Banks, that's a three-pointer!
My high school coach basically told me how to go to the elbow shot, and that's right at the free throw line, and shoot that. And then I kind of moved myself back further and further. My arm was getting a little bit stronger and stronger, and that's why I got the name of Fearless Freddie.
He hit more tough shots than anybody I've ever seen. When the game's on the line, Freddie's going to hit it.
Banks is one of 6 seniors and is still undaunted by shooting under pressure. Of the starters, Banks, who is from Las Vegas, is the only one who was recruited by UNLV directly from high school. The others arrived via the junior college pipeline. The last piece of the puzzle was Patio, who was recruited during the spring out of Seminole Junior College. Patio was like a designated shooter because of his deficiencies as a passer and dribbler. He was not the beneficiary of Tarkanian's laissez-faire approach. With Patio, the dribble was considered too much of an adventure, and he was encouraged to stick to the three-point line. The most trusted starter was Armand Gilliam, who had a soft jumper and enough power moves to encourage visits to the Thomas and Mack Center by NBA scouts. Gilliam was a former football player who switched to basketball in the 11th grade. He was the son of a clergyman and was soft-spoken, but didn't back down from confrontation. Gilliam established his reputation and his nickname as the Hammer in his first season with the Running-Rebels. The setting was a local nightclub where a large UNLV football player threatened a 5'9" reserve guard on the basketball team. Gilliam took the situation and the football player into hand. Since then, UNLV has looked to him in tight spots on the court as well. Wade says, Armand is the man.
My assistant spotted his talent. In fact, Armand's first college game that he's eligible, I don't play him the whole game and we get beat. By the middle of the year, Armand's our best player.
They call him the Hammer. Armand Gilliam was like a He-Man. He was the Hammer when he got the ball. But he had hands like an angel. It's like he covered them in basketball lotion before every game. And he had just the softest little shot.
Gilliam. Yes. The big guy, Gilliam, down low. He has the softest hands of any big man in the country. Gilliam.
Once I got it down, my offense really came into its own, and I started scoring a lot of points. And by my senior year, it was pretty easy for me to score points.
Wade. Gilliam. Oh.
We were winning games pretty handily.
I've done a lot of games for the Rebels, folks. I've never seen them any hotter than this or the opponent any colder. 33-6.
20, 30-point victories for most of that season. We knew we had something special. We wanted to take it as far as it would go.
Again, I want to come back and talk a little more about that tour and what some of the players said. Bass Knight said, during that tour, we were talking about the season to come, and we said we were going to the Final Four. No team is going to beat us. After Australia, wherever we went, whoever we played, they had no chance to beat us. Any team that got in front of us, we'd bust their ass. It was that type of mentality that gave the players the confidence. They were not going to be denied. Aldridge Hudson said, we weren't cocky, but we always knew we were going to win. I can't put into words how special that team was. We were never rattled. You have to understand the history of the program. We're a bunch of inner city kids and had that mentality that nobody was going to mess with us or beat us. UNLV was a school of hard-nosed kids, and we looked out for each other. The 1987 team reached the Final Four in New Orleans. Banks set that record by making 10 three-pointers.
I just couldn't believe that our local college was going for the national championship. It seemed so big to me, like a kid on your block fighting for the heavyweight title.
So it is Knight against Tarkanian, and the Run-and-Rebels at 37-1 are favored by 4.
They lost just 2 games that year by a combined 5 points and helped pave the way for the program's future success. To this day, the players don't consider that 88-89 loss at Oklahoma as a defeat because of a disputed bucket before halftime that was incorrectly ruled 2 points instead of 3. Let's finish with the most magical moment of the season, the defeat of Iowa to reach the Final Four.
Bill, it strikes me that we've seen the top seeds go down in 2 games yesterday. Is there a chance that top-seeded UNLV could lose today?
Absolutely, and Jerry Tarkanian scared to death when he has to face that trap of Iowa. He hasn't seen that trap for a year and a half now, and the last time they saw it was against Tom Davis when he was at Stanford, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they attack it.
And Tarkanian said losing would have been a disappointment, but the prospect of being routed would have stung long after the season. The UNLV coach was well aware of the doubts and the critics about his team. The Run-and-Rebels play in a weak conference. They're undisciplined and will invariably end their season somewhere short of the Final Four. But UNLV capped a furious second-half comeback with an 84-81 victory against Iowa. The Rebels trailed by 16 points after the first half, and as many as 18 before they began their rush to victory. We weren't getting beat. We weren't getting humiliated, Tarkanian said. At halftime, we faced the fact that the season would pretty much be over in 20 minutes. But these kids have courage. We just decided to go out and play like the Running Rebels. Tarkanian blamed himself for the first half performance, saying that he implemented a switching defense to help compensate for Iowa's height advantage. His aim was to keep his small team from facing too many mismatches inside. He confused the Rebels instead, he said, nullifying the pressure they would put on opponents. Iowa scored baskets as if it were practicing. And on offense, UNLV was missing three-point shots that had become its trademark this season. They hit just 4 of 17. The outlook was bleak. I just never feel that we can't come back, though, said Gary Graham, whose 2 free throws with 10 seconds left sealed the victory. At halftime, we were so loose. I didn't care if we were down 20, back to man-to-man. There was no secret strategies to unveil in the second half, no Newt Rockne-type speech to inspire the players. Tarkanian simply told them to return to their man-to-man pressure defense and keep taking the shots that helped them to win 36 of 37 games, 1 victory short of the NCAA record set by Duke the previous year. His message was especially intended for Gerald Patio, the lanky forward whose specialty was the three-point shot, and had been slumping in the last month of the season, missing all 5 of his three-pointers in the first half. But I knew that it was either I was going to start making that shot or we were going to lose the game, he said. I said that I was going to come back and do the best I could. Patio found the range early in the second half, hitting a three-pointer to cut Iowa's lead to 64-52. From that point on, the lead melted like a stick of butter. UNLV scored 10 consecutive points and 14 more after Brad Lojas of the Hawkeyes interrupted the comeback with a layup. Patio had 9 of those 14 points in the second streak, all three-point baskets. UNLV made 11 of 30 overall. With a little more than 8 minutes to play, UNLV had charged to a 71-66 lead. We knew at halftime it was far from over, said Tom Davis, the Iowa coach. When you have 2 running teams playing, you'll see bigger shifts in the momentum. They just did everything better than we did in the second half. The smaller Rebels even out-rebounded Iowa in the second half and finished the game even in that department. The Hawkeyes had not been out-rebounded in any game that season. But led by Armon Gilliam, the 6'9" power forward, the Rebels prevented Iowa from getting second and third shots. Gilliam led both teams with 27 points and had 10 rebounds. He said that he became more effective once Patio rediscovered his shooting touch. It was a lot easier for me because it spread things out. Once Gerald started hitting, I was real confident we would win. Iowa's style mirrored the Rebels, and its zone press forced a turnover as UNLV could not get the ball across midcourt in the allotted 10 seconds. With 22 seconds to play, the Hawkeyes set up for the winning shot, but Gamble's lob pass under the basket to Lojas hit the backboard and caromed out of bounds. The Rebels' Graham was fouled and hit both free throws. The game ended as Gamble's desperation three-pointer didn't come anywhere close. It was a miracle the way we came back, Tarkanian said. I thought we were living on borrowed time. You just don't come back against a team like that. In the Final Four, despite Banks setting the three-point mark while scoring 38 points, and Gilliam's 32 points and a tournament record 18 assists from Wade, UNLV couldn't overcome the Steve Alford-led Indiana team. When you're a senior, you don't want to end your career like that, said Banks. Being able to play in the Final Four was a blast because of the teammates I played with. I was in the zone that night.
I think we were overconfident going in that game. We were really looking to be in the finals, and I don't think we played our best game against Indiana. It was Freddie's senior year. It was my senior year. We were definitely the leaders.
They couldn't stop Freddie Banks.
There's a three from Banks. Are you kidding me? Fading away, going to the deep corner.
They couldn't stop Armin Gilliam.
Gilliam on the turnaround. He's 2 for 2 from that spot. Now it's Gilliam alone at the free throw line. He'll hammer that shot away.
Freddie scored 38 points. I had 30-something points. But
Indiana was able to neutralize the other three players on the floor.
Adio off the move. The three not there.
When he misses very, very badly.
Kind of a tough game to win when just two guys are scoring.
Executing its plan to perfection, Indiana beat the Rebels 97-93.
I really thought we were going to be the national champions that year. That's all we talked about all year long. I was so devastated.
Not only do I remember the loss to Indiana, I still have never seen Hoosiers. I got on a plane and Hoosiers was playing and I had to put a mask over my eyes. I can never watch that film because I hate that Indiana team so much.
UNLV's run to the Final Four in 1987 was one of the most impressive in memory. They were a dominant team that could score points in a variety of ways. Unfortunately for the Rebels, they ran into an Indiana team that played the perfect game and came up short. However, their performance in the tournament was still an iconic moment in UNLV basketball history.
Tell you what, when the rankings come out on Monday morning, if the Rebels are not the #1 team in the nation, I'll eat this red foam thing here, huh?
We hope that you've enjoyed the storytelling of the 1987 Run-and-Rebels. Now, stay tuned for our first-person interview with Freddie Banks.
Las Vegas is growing, and it's a 24-hour city. People don't sleep. If you don't sleep, that's on you, but they don't sleep.
So talk a little bit about UNLV and the program in the 80s. How did you end up there to begin with? I know you grew up in Vegas, but how did you get connected with the university there, and why did you end up picking it out of the school?
The reason why I chose to stay home because my mother and father are still living.
That's awesome.
For that for them. They've been married 68 years, going 69.
Incredible.
And so I just wanted them to see me for the last 4 years of my college career. And I said, you know what? Every school, Iowa, Nebraska, and just name a few, was after me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to stay home, let my family see me for another 4 years, and I'm going to just do what I have to do to make them proud. And I stayed home. Coach Tark came in to recruit me in my front door, told my mom and dad what he was going to do, and he kept his word. And I thank him for that. But it was really a treat to play in your hometown people. And the Thomas Mack was just being built. I was the first freshman to play in the Thomas Mack.
That's awesome.
And every single game, it was sold out. Every game.
Best part was the Jaws theme music.
The shark roaming around the arena and the music.
Dun, 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 dun. And you had everybody doing the shark.
And it was dark, and it was really pure Las Vegas show business.
And then they started Gucci Row, where they put in 72 chairs, and they were charging like $2,000 a ticket.
I got Gucci bags, and I filled them with popcorn. And everyone on Gucci Row, I passed out a bag of popcorn with a Gucci bag. And that's how come it got the name Gucci Row.
We were making more money just off of Gucci Row than a lot of schools were making off their entire season.
Amazing.
And I was getting people to call me and say, Coach, Freddie, you got any tickets? You got any tickets? Man, I don't have any tickets. I don't have any. So it was amazing. But I really enjoyed what Coach Tark did. Even my high school coach, because my high school coach was excuse my French, was a ruthless son of a gun. Boy, he did not put up with any of my mess. He didn't care who I was. He just wanted the best of me, and I thank him for that too. But it was a great year and everything for me at UNLV.
So the nickname, the Fearless Freddie, because I saw that on the HBC, because we lament often like the era of nicknames seems to have, everybody's just KD or, just a couple initials, but Fearless Freddie, that's one you want to hang on to. So where'd you get that? Did you get that on the playground or somewhere else?
No, I got that from Coach Tark, actually. And Coach Tark, basically, we was in Utah State, and I think I was a sophomore. No, I was a freshman. I was a freshman at the time. And we was playing. We went to triple overtime. And they kept following me. And I go to the line, I make my free throws, and we kept staying ahead. And then when the game was over, he was so excited, he started calling me Fearless Freddie. So that stuck with me from this day on.
That's
I
awesome.
even had that on my license plate. I'm carrying it on from today. It's a beautiful thing to, for someone to give you a name that you looked up to as a coach and give you a Fearless Freddie.
Yeah, that's definitely a mentality thing too that every coach appreciates.
Freddie Banks had 38 points in that game. He was 10 of 19 from 3-point range. The guy went nuts. Freddie, I remember after the game, Freddie, in the group press conference, said something to the effect of, "Yeah, I guess I did have a pretty good shooting night." Yeah, I guess you did.
Well, my shooting was tremendous. I shot the ball. I really shot the ball tonight. It was no question. Everyone was in my face, and I was just shooting over them.
Let's talk a little bit about Tark. What did you know about him before he started recruiting you, and how did that perception match up with the reality when you got to know him on a regular basis or interacted with him regularly?
Well, when I first came in encounter with Coach Tark, he came to Valley to watch me play a couple of times, and I liked what they was doing. They was running and gunning, they was playing defense, and that would made me say, I can fit into this kind of system here. I'm gonna stay home. And so when I seen one of my idols, who's a local talent guy too, matter of fact, there's a few of them local talents older than me. Sutton Sam Smith was 1970s, 77. Michael Spider-Man Burns was also in that category. When I seen them play and how they was running up and down the court, I said, man, I'm gonna be one of them. And so back in the 70s, 77, they didn't have 3-point shooting back then when they was playing. And they was averaging over 100 some points. And I said, wow, I know I can shoot long range too. And so I said, I'm gonna stay home because I know Tark lets you shoot. So I ended up staying home and playing under Danny Tarkanian the first year. And then the second year, he said, I'm gonna give the whole team to you, Freddie, and you just run it. And that's what he did. And I thank him for it.
Tark kept coaching. He ignored the internal power struggle and focused on improving his basketball team. He started with 2 new recruits, Armin Gilliam from Pittsburgh and Freddie Banks, a former Las Vegas high school star.
Stick with the 3-point shot. How did that impact things at UNLV and fit into the style? Because watching the games, it becomes a little hyperbole to think like modern basketball was invented. Yeah. But we'll talk a little bit about that Final Four game. But man, that looks so modern to this day. Just the way that you guys are playing, the speed, the pace, just kind of letting it fly, like you said.
Well, you first of all, you have to have a good point guard. And the point guard is the one that can find you in every spot that you go to. My point guard, and I still talk to him today, Mark Wade. Mark Wade came in when I was a junior, and me and him are the best friends. So we was roommates. We played in high school against each other, and he just knew who I was at all time. And then just coming down fast-paced, pulling up a 3, he just something that Tark always wanted us to do. He never told me to stop shooting. He always told me, you keep shooting. No matter how many you miss, keep shooting. And I loved him for that too. But if you don't have a point guard that can find you behind that 3-point line, it's not going to work. But if you can create your own, that's a plus. But I also created my own also. But if you didn't get close to me, it was going up quickly and fast.
You're that neon green light, from Tarkanian.
Yes, sir.
That's nice. That does help a shooter. I think the mentality. I often see like the best shooting teams have a coach that understands that shooters can get hot and cold, and if you're, they've seen you enough in practice to know like this guy, if he misses a couple, the next one's going in, and just to foster that mentality.
Well, it's a lot of work too, also because you got to stay in the gym, and I was always in the gym early in the morning, then come into practice, shoot some more. You got to put up and Kobe Bryant said the best. You putting up 500 to 1,000 shots, that's a lot of shots putting up, but you're getting your work in. And I encourage all the young people out there. That's how all my shots was falling, because I was using my legs and my arms.
I think one of the most underrated things in basketball is how teammates fit on and off the court. And you mentioned Wade, but what was the vibe like with the rest of the team? Were you guys close, or especially that 86-87 campaign?
Wow. We was like brothers. We basically didn't know what we was doing in the 87 year, And that was our senior year. And we didn't know what we know. We just all said we just want to make to the Final Four. And once we got there, we didn't know what we was doing, but we did get there. But we was all brothers. We spent time together. We ate together. We played together. Anything at the university we done, we did. And from this day, I keep up with Eldridge Hudson, Jarvis Basnight, Gary Graham, Armin Gillen, rest in peace, because he passed away, Mark Wade, Gerald Patio. I keep in contact with every one of my teammates as of today.
I think that's such a special thing. And, you see in modern basketball, a lot of teams put together, even like in the AAU circuit, a lot of guys just are pulled together. And, you see the talent, and obviously that wins out in a lot of situations. But the NCAA tournament is a weird thing. I think you hit on it with Wade. Like, he knew where you were. That comes from playing together too. Like, not just from being a good point guard, but that's like, I know where you like the ball. I know where you like to shoot from, and that you're going to go to even unconsciously, and I think that's so important for basketball players.
Yes, it is. And like I said, he knows when I'm coming, because he already looked back and he knew I was coming, and he just handed it off to me, or he just threw it to me 1 2. So he knows me very well.
Yeah. So you said you had the goal of the Final Four. Was that a team goal that you guys put together, or coach's goal, or you guys just?
It wasn't a goal at all. I mean, we just played hard, and because we was undefeated until we played Oklahoma and Indiana. 37-2 was a very good record.
Yeah,
we could have went 40-0, but unfortunately we didn't came up short. But the thing is that the guys that we played, we just practiced hard. We beat up on each other. We fought each other, and we made each other better. And that's what we did. But when we got to the Final Four, we were so happy that we beat Iowa, because we were down by almost 20. Well, it was a lot. I mean, at the Superdome, I think the record was 64,000 people, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so we are used to playing at 20 to 30 at Thomas and Mack if they crap them in. But it was fun. I mean, I have no bad feelings from the time we was at the Superdome or anything like that. And once we beat Iowa, we said, oh, man, we're here. So, going a little early to the Final Four in '87, I think it kind of opened our eyes a little bit, because, you're on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, man, you're going to go out and have you a good time. And I think we kind of party too much.
So March 1987, Rebels in New Orleans, taking on Indiana. New Orleans, it was fun. I did all the regular voodoo stories. I did all the crawdad stories, crawfish. We did a crawfish bake with Gary Graham and Armin Gilliam. I remember Tark had no curfew for his guys. He just said he didn't do it. He didn't have a curfew. Indiana was real tight curfew. Tark said he didn't do it all season, so why do it now? I remember it's 1 o'clock in the morning, the night, the day of the game, so it was the morning. And it was that night. I remember seeing David Willard down an alleyway, and he was relieving himself and had a hurricane, a large drink in his hand. And so I looked at him, smiled, and said, hey, getting ready for tomorrow, huh?
Amazing. Yeah, I talked to Hillman, and that was one of the things that he said that Coach Knight did, was that he wouldn't take them down there. He took them down there at the very last minute. And then they stayed outside of the city prior to the Final Four games. So that's interesting. Right. It sure didn't look like it slowed you guys down in that game. I have to say, if you were going to go even faster than that, you guys were moving pretty well.
Well, we did move pretty fast, but again, we usually have at least 2 to 3 people score at as many as 10 points.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that at all. All the guys scored below 10. We looked to them to get over 10, because we ended up losing to Indiana by 4.
Yeah.
Because right now I hold the record as most threes, and Mark Wade record just got beat the other week.
Yeah.
And Armand and I both try to hold the team together, because I finished with 38 and he finished with 34. And so we just didn't we came up short, because the guys that we did see to score points was Gerald Patio or Eldridge Hudson or Jarvis Basnight, and they all came up short.
That's
on their end. Yeah.
All right, give me a Tark story from that 86, 87, because I'm always curious how he pushes. Great coaches like him push players after wins and losses, and you guys never lost.
Well, it wasn't more so of we thought we was going to win. We just knew that once we get on the court, it's time to play basketball. It was like almost a business to all of us because the next level was someone to make it to the pro level. But when we got on the court and listened to Tark, he let us be ourselves, but we always would tip my head off to Tim Gurridge, who was assistant coach. And he always went to Coach Gurg on everything that, supposed to do on the court or off the court. He always went to Coach Gurg. But Tark kind of subbed us in and out. So we did a good job when he came in and out of the game, each one of us. But his stories is unbelievable. I mean, he just go out to get the inner city kids.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go out to get the diaper Dan kind of kids. He went out to get the inner city kids to play for him. And those inner city kids didn't have a chance to make it to anyone else. So he gave all of them a chance to play. I didn't have too many inner city kids with me playing when the years I was playing, but I had a great group of kids that played with me, like Gary Graham played for Dunbar.
Mm-hmm.
George Bassnett was in California playing. I forgot the name of his school, and Mark Wade. So it's a number of those guys. Eldred Hudson, he was the next Magic Johnson until he tore his ACL up.
Yeah.
So I played with some good guys, but not no, those kids that he really, really gave everybody the opportunity to play.
What was a day in the life of a UNLV Run-and-Rebel then? Like, what was your guys' day like now? Because it seems like it's changed so much. They have like hour rules in for college players. But what was it like for you guys at that time?
Well, the NCAA was so tight on everything, and we couldn't do too much of anything. But as a young man coming in from miles and miles away, it was kind of hard for them to survive. We all got our scholarship checks and different things like that. But nowadays, they're giving them scholarship check. They're giving them tuition kind of money. They're giving them so much money, they don't even have to go to pros because they're paying them now. And so we didn't get that. If you got paid any type of money, it was under the table and no one knew. And so now you ain't got to do all that. They just giving it to you and nothing happened. But the NCAA was really, really bad in those days because of Coach Tark. He'd been fighting against the NCAA for quite some time and won his case. But now, it's bad, but the kids are different kids now.
Yeah.
I see it, and they fight me as a coach that's been there. And I'm like, I would not put my name on you if you're not going to do what I tell you to do.
We're allowing them to throw the ball where they want. Deny the next pass.
All right. So you guys start out 15-0. You're ranked number 1 in the country, and you go into that Oklahoma game. What sticks out to you about that first loss of the season? How did that play out inside the locker room?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, all we did was we went into the locker room. We all visualized the what had happened. Gary Graham shot the 3. It was actually a 3. They called it a 2. And then if we would, because I think we ended up losing by 2 to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't hold our heads down. We knew that loss kind of helped us because when you lose a game, it just brings the commodity of your team together a little closer. And that's what it did to us because after that, we didn't lose any more games. We went straight through the tournaments and different things in our bracket. And then we went to the Final Four. And we just stayed together because we should have had not made it to the Final Four with Iowa.
Go there. Yeah. So you get to that Iowa team, 7 eventual pros on that Iowa team. I think people might not hear Iowa and pro teams, but they had BJ Armstrong who played with Jordan. You guys are down 16 at half.
Yes.
What in the world? How'd you guys come out on top there?
Well, we went into the locker room. Normally Coach Tark would come in the locker room. He'll scream. He has his boots on. He'll kick the wall. He'll throw the chalk. He didn't say anything. He said, gentlemen, he said, this is on your court. You know what you got to do to come back.
Wow.
So before that even happened, I spoke to Roy Marble. I think it was Roy Marble or Kevin Gamble, one of them. And I was shooting well. And I told them at halftime, I said, you know what? I'll be back. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back. And so once Gerald Padel hit his first 3, that opened the door for me to hit mine. And we just fought our way back and ended up beating them by, I can't remember what we beat Iowa by. But we ended up coming back and beating them down by 20. And that was the first big comeback we had since I've been playing at UNLV.
What was the prep for? Let's go back a little bit. What was the prep for the NCAA tournament like? Going into it? Because you've had this amazing season now. So you might not have been thinking championship or Final Four at the beginning of the season, but surely, going into that, you had to at least have some aspirations for it.
Well, yeah, we did. We all had aspiration for getting to the Final Four, but once we got there, we were like, "Wow, we're here now. So what we gonna do?" Because Jarvis Basnott brought it to our attention. He said, "Fred, I didn't know what to do because it was all the lights and the cameras and the people and all the people you seeing. It just, even though we're in Vegas, we don't get out like that. In the city of Las Vegas to see all the lights, but when you see all that, you like, wow, this is really the Final Four." And so all the guys was not paranoid, but they was excited. They was on their own. We were doing what we like to do, and that's party together, enjoy our life, and just play basketball.
The week leading up to the Final Four in New Orleans, walk me through it. When did you guys get there? What was Coach Tark talking about this Hoosiers team? Like, what did you guys think about them before the game?
Some people see this game as a battle of the good boys against the bad.
Hey, I'm not like him doing things for nothing. I'm going to do an interview. You're going to show my book to the Vegas people because I read about your boy Tark. Just call people to buy it. Go ahead. What do you want? I happen to have the book on me.
How do you see this matchup?
Well, I think you're looking at two of the better basketball teams in America. Talent-wise, we got two coaches that are considered to be two of the Rolls Races. We have a defensive specialist. Interesting matchup.
Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers took the court first, and Steve Alford couldn't miss out there. The Rebels are hoping he spends more time running than shooting tomorrow.
He's one of the best players in the nation, and what they do, their whole office is geared for getting him open. It's going to be tough for me, Gary, and Freddie to stay with him because we're going to be getting picked every time we turn around.
The defense is habitual with us right now. I think it's real repetitious in ways that we don't have to guess. I mean, it comes natural.
I don't really believe anybody's going to stop Alfred. We just hope that we can keep him under control and keep him, where he doesn't just have an unbelievable night. You're not going to stop him.
Well, he didn't really talk about the Hoosier team at all. We just know that they had Steve Alford, which is a good player, and we just concentrate on what he does on the court and how he gets his shots off and then different things like that. And we just prepare for them for a whole week or two, and then we just got on a plane and flew up to Orleans and just did our game plan. The game plan was to stop him and hold everybody else to whatever we can hold them to. But the plan didn't happen as much as that we wanted to. He still got his 30-some points, but the rest of them just made free throws down the line. So when you foul someone, you go to the line and make your free throws. That's a good thing. You mentioned two of the guys. I can't think of his name now.
Joe Hillman? Joe Hillman. Yeah, okay.
He came in and played well. I can't think of the other guy name. He's a 6'9" power forward too. He came in and played well, and that was their boost right there. Those two guys really came in and played well for them, and we had no answer to those two because I think Joe was guarding me, and that was a mistake because Keith Smart was a mistake too because I think Bobby Knight was getting kind of frustrated because there was no answer to how to stop me in the game. Not saying that I was better than anyone else on the court.
I mean, that night you were. I would say that.
I was just trying to make sure I stayed one more night to finish up my college career, and it was wonderful. I mean, they played well. They ended up beating us by 4, but and then and what makes it even special is losing the game, and they went on to win the national championship. Yeah. That makes it a special thing because they beat us and then went to win the whole thing.
From the Indiana side, they kind of tell the story like, Indiana isn't traditionally like a run and gun team, and they had decided to adopt that style to kind of surprise you guys. Were you surprised by them coming out at kind of matching your pace?
Well, they tried to match the pace, but they kind of slowed it down because Bobby Knight knows that all we like to do is get up and down the court fast and then shoot the first open shot. So they did run a couple times when the opportunity was there for them to run, but they also slowed it down because if they slow it down, that makes us staggered where we don't know to stay in our stance or pressure the ball and things like that. So it made a big difference when we played them because they slowed us down a little bit.
All right, tell me about what it was like to be that hot in a Final Four game because you ended up with, 10 threes in that game?
Well, it was fun. I mean, like I said, Mark Wade found me a lot on the court. Once I got my first shot off, I said, oh, this is going to be a very good night for me because when you have your family in the stands and you don't know where they sit at, but they there, and you want to perform well because this is your senior year and you have all the scouts up there watching and things. So you want to make sure you put on a good performance. So a lot of those points that I did shoot the three, I created on my own because I floated to the baseline. I fall away from the baseline. I wide open shot, or you just had your hand down, like Mark Jackson used to tell you, hand down, man down. So,
oh yeah.
So a lot of them put their hands up. So once I lift up and let my shot go, I consider it's going in.
Even now, watching it, I can almost believe that you guys might beat Indiana, just how hot you were. Yes. Every time you put the ball up, no matter if you're drifting or set, the ball was pure leaving your hand. Really amazing performance.
Yes, it was. Thank you. But I think at 9 times out of 10, I think if we played them again, it'll be something different.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Both of those teams are at an elite level of basketball that you can't see except in the best situations. Both of those teams could have played anybody else, I think, and beat them on any night.
Right. Well, it was a lot of red in the gym. There was a lot of red.
a lot of red in there.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I had to ask you. There's a scene that they always show that you guys come out at halftime late from the locker room. So you see Tark running across, because you're in the Superdome, this giant stadium, and he's like running from the locker room. And the announcers say that Bobby Knight's like trying to get the game started because you guys are late getting out. So what in the world happened?
Well, normally they'll come in and they'll tell us, hey, you got so much time left on the clock and you need to get out. And so no one did that. And the Orleans is a huge place. And that's half what you see out there. That was just half of the
exactly.
Region. So we had to, once everybody say, hey, y'all need to hurry up. The clock is about to start. The game's about to start. So Tark had to run. I'm running to get to there so I can get me some, get my legs back under me because I've been sitting so long. And that's basically what happened. No one came to say anything about us, about the clock and what time to get back, to the court.
That just never happened anymore. Just amazing that happened. Just like a fun little fact watching the game too. I'm just like watching Tark jog out there. Doesn't look like he did a lot of running.
Yeah, he did. I think when he got back, I think he grabbed his towel too, chopping on his towel.
I bet.
a lot of folks always ask me why he always sucking on the towel.
Yeah.
And the reason is that the story he told me is because when he's yelling, his mouth gets dry. And when he's water in one towel and the other towel is really dry. So all he does is just suck the water out of it to keep his throat moist. So that's what's that's why he carried that towel.
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's great.
No one knows the story but me. I know the story because he told me.
That's amazing.
Like most headliners in Las Vegas, Tark had a shtick. A meticulously folded, slightly moistened towel, occasionally placed under his seat, but more often found in his mouth.
He always looked really funny biting on the towel. That's where he got the nickname Bulldog. Bulldog always grabs the towel and starts shaking it.
Tarkanian works that towel. Look at that.
Gil would always prepare his towels. I guess he would soak one and have one dry.
Nobody else can wet it exactly the way he does. It's never too wet, it's never too dry, and he folds them perfectly.
I guess it worked for him. He won over 82% of his games.
Okay, so unfortunately, of course, Indiana wins. Take me into the locker room afterwards. What was the mood or feeling? Certainly you had a lot to celebrate, but those are tough losses too.
Yeah, it was a tough loss. After the game was over, we all went to the locker room and just hold our heads down a little bit because, you're a young man. You don't like losing, especially the caliber team that we had. We didn't want to lose. So most of us had our heads up. Most of us had our heads down. I think I had my head down because it was a performance that I never did before. Mm-hmm. And it helped me out as far as my draft pick in the NBA. But I told them, they asked me, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay here for the championship game or are you going home? I said, no, y'all give me a plane ticket the first time out. I'm going home. So I ended up going home early. My family was left behind. So I got home and I just thought about all the good things and I thought about the bad things in my UNLV career. But most of it was mostly good things since I've been at UNLV.
That's great. Who are you cheering for if I gave you truth serum in the championship game, Syracuse or IU?
I was cheering for Syracuse. I was. Because they just beat me.
Yeah, I would have done the same.
we really got to all of us.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was really fun.
I thought we had a pretty good plan to stop him, and it sure didn't work. You know, we felt like we were going to do a better job on him. We didn't do a good job. We didn't do nearly as good a job on him as we had hoped that we could do.
We just didn't have the defensive intensity we normally do, and that's what causes problems late in the game. You know, they executed, they got the ball to Steve Alford when they needed to, and he converted.
I look back on this year, and we have a lot of good memories. We played well, but the thing is, we could have won this game today. That's really what hurts, and that's what we have to live with.
It's really been a great season for us. We can't complain about it. We just didn't sell out hard enough to get this, and we just gonna miss Coach Tarkanian and all the rest of the assistant coach. But we just came up short at the end.
We've been together. We still gonna be together. You know, we just didn't have it today. There's no one. You see no one. In here all mad or anything. You know, we had a great year. And I like to say something going back to Vegas. I like to say thank you very much to our fans. And for all those who came and all those who couldn't make it. Thank you very much. And for me, I love you a lot, and I know the team feels the same way about it. I like to say thank you.
Wherever our kids go, that's the talk of the town. It was more difficult to get a ticket to a UNLV basketball game than it was to the Frank Sinatra show.
Thank you for joining us for this look back at the 1987 UNLV Run-and-Rebels. Iconic Seasons is a Principal podcast production. I'm your host and executive producer, Aaron Meyer. Special thanks to all our guests for sharing their journeys. If you enjoy this series, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow the show. And make sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps us out and helps others to discover the show. If you're interested in a bonus episode, send us your questions via email. Our email address is hardwoodhistory@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back with episode 7, telling the story of the 1987 Hoosiers and featuring our first of 3 interviews with Joe Hillman.